Okay, so get ready, because today we're going deep on some seriously out there stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about a patent by, you guessed it, Nikola Tesla.
Of course.
But this isn't about electric cars or self-driving or any of that.
What is it then?
This patent from way back in 1902, this is all about transmitting power wirelessly.
Wireless power. Wow,
And I
that's...
know, right? Like, we think of that as this futuristic thing, but Tesla was already on it over a century ago.
It's amazing how his ideas still capture our imaginations.
Absolutely. So this deep dive, we're going to crack open this patent and try to understand what Tesla was envisioning.
Sounds fascinating.
It is. No, let's set the stage.
Hmm.
Tesla was tackling a huge problem back then, how to transmit massive amounts of energy.
Right, because with wires, you lose a lot of power, and just beaming it through the air, well, that's a whole other challenge.
Exactly. Even today, with all our tech, we still haven't totally solved it.
No, we haven't.
But Tesla, he wasn't afraid to think big.
He never was.
He wanted to completely reinvent the way we use and distribute power.
And his solution was,
High-tension, high-frequency currents.
oh boy, here we go.
I know, right? It gets pretty wild, and this is where he introduces this concept of resonant circuits.
Okay, resonant circuits, I'm listening.
So, for those of us who aren't electrical engineers, maybe you can break that down a bit.
Sure. Think of it like pushing someone on a swing.
Okay, I'm with you.
If you time your pushes just right, matching the swing's natural rhythm,
Yeah.
they'll go higher and higher.
Ah, I get it. Like you're adding energy at just the right moment.
Exactly, that's resonance. Tesla wanted to do the same thing with electricity.
So instead of a swing, it's like an electrical circuit swinging back and forth.
Precisely by making these circuits resonate, Tesla believed he could maximize the energy transfer.
Wow. So he's like fine-tuning the system to make it super efficient.
Exactly, he was all about efficiency.
This is already blowing my mind, but there's got to be more to it than just matching frequencies, right?
Oh, there's definitely more.
I mean, how do you keep all that power from zapping everything in sight?
Well, Tesla was way ahead of you there. He knew he couldn't just blast energy out randomly. He needed to control it, shape it.
Okay, so how did he do that?
He focused on something that might seem surprising, the shape of the conductors themselves.
The shape. I mean, I know form follows function, but come on.
It's more important than you might think.
Yeah.
Think about skipping stones on a lake.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
A smooth, round stone skips way better than a jagged one.
Huh.
Yeah,
Because it glides over the water.
exactly. It's all about minimizing resistance and maximizing flow. Tesla applied that same principle to his wireless power system.
So he wanted everything to be smooth and curvy, no sharp edges to let the energy leak out.
Precisely. He realized that using rounded shapes, especially for the terminal where the power was concentrated, would keep the energy flowing smoothly.
So I'm picturing like a giant metal donut or something.
He didn't get into specific shapes in his patent.
Fair enough. But I'm getting the idea. Smooth curves, no sharp edges. But okay, let's be real for a second. If we're talking about transmitting massive amounts of power, wouldn't there be some safety concerns?
Of course, Tesla was a brilliant inventor, but he wasn't reckless.
I mean, what's to stop this thing from turning into a giant electrical fireball?
Well, Tesla himself actually called these potential discharges fireballs in his patent.
Fireballs. Okay, now I'm a little nervous.
Don't worry, he had a plan. A brilliant one, in fact. He incorporated special elements into his design.
Oh. Tell me more.
These elements were specifically shaped to act like pressure relief valves.
Wow.
If the energy levels got too high, these valves would divert the excess energy safely into the air.
So it's like a safety valve on a pressure cooker letting off steam to prevent an explosion.
Precisely a very clever solution to a potentially dangerous problem.
Tesla really thought of everything.
Yep.
But wait, there's another thing that's been bugging me.
What's that?
How did he actually envision transmitting this power wirelessly? Like, was it some kind of death ray shooting across the sky?
Not quite a death ray. This is where things get really mind-blowing. Tesla's system involved using the Earth itself as part of the circuit.
Wait, hold on. He wanted to use the entire planet as a giant wire.
You got it. Tesla saw the Earth as this massive conductor capable of carrying electrical currents over vast distances.
That is some next-level thinking.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what makes Tesla so fascinating. So he envisioned using a ground connection at one end of the system and...
Oh, I'm with you on the ground connection, but how do you even complete a circuit with the entire planet?
that's where the elevation comes in. Tesla proposed building a giant elevated terminal, a structure designed to maximize its exposure to the atmosphere.
So we're talking a massive tower reaching high into the sky, creating this electrical potential between the Earth and the terminal.
Exactly. Tesla believed that by establishing this huge potential difference, he could induce electrical currents to flow through the Earth itself, completing the circuit and transmitting power wirelessly.
So the Earth becomes like a giant conduit for the energy.
Precisely, a truly mind-boggling concept.
Okay, I need a minute to process all of this.
Take your time. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface of Tesla's vision.
Oh, we're just getting started. There's so much more to uncover.
This is incredible. I can't wait to dive deeper.
Let's do it.
All right, so last we left off, we were talking about Tesla using the entire planet as part of his wireless power system.
Yeah. It's a pretty wild idea, isn't it?
It is. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
Well, let's break it down a bit further.
Okay, good, because I have so many questions.
That's right. So we've got the Earth as this giant conductor, right?
Right, a massive power line spanning the globe.
Exactly. But how do you actually tap into that?
Yeah, where do you even begin?
It all starts with a combination of grounding and elevation.
Grounding and elevation. Okay, I'm listening.
So imagine this. At one end of the system, you've got a ground plate buried deep in the Earth.
All right, so that's your connection to the planet's natural conductivity.
Precisely. It's like plugging into the Earth itself.
But what about the other end? Where does the elevation part come in?
That's where things get really visually stunning. Tesla envisioned building this giant elevated terminal.
A giant terminal.
Yeah, a massive structure designed to maximize its exposure to the atmosphere.
Okay, so we're not talking about like a little antenna on your roof.
No,
Yeah.
this is something much grander, something capable of handling enormous amounts of electrical energy.
So like a skyscraper with a giant metal ball on top.
Tesla didn't get into specifics about the design in his patent.
Fair enough, but I'm getting the picture.
The key point is that by raising this terminal high above the ground, you create a powerful electrical potential difference between the Earth and the terminal itself.
So it's like the Earth is one terminal of a giant battery and this tower is the other terminal.
That's a great way to put it. Tesla was essentially trying to harness the natural electrical forces at play between the Earth and the atmosphere.
Wow, that's some serious out-of-the-box thinking.
It is, isn't it? But here's the thing that still boggles my mind. If you're transmitting power through the Earth, how do you control where it goes?
Yeah, wouldn't it just spread out everywhere like ripples in a pond?
That's a great question. And it brings us back to one of Tesla's key principles, resonance.
Resonance again.
Yep, Tesla was obsessed with resonance. He believed it was the key to efficient energy transfer.
So is he talking about those resonant circuits we talked about earlier, but on a global scale?
Exactly. Instead of just blasting power out randomly, Tesla wanted to create a targeted pathway for it to flow.
Okay, I think I'm starting to follow this. So he'd tune the transmitter and receiver to the same frequency, and that would create...
An invisible energy pipeline through the Earth itself.
Wow, so the energy wouldn't just dissipate, it would flow along this specific path?
Precisely like a subterranean river of power.
Now that is an image.
And here's another crucial point. Tesla emphasized the importance of resonant circuits in the devices or structures that would actually capture and utilize this wireless power.
Ah, so on the receiving end, you'd need a device that's tuned to the same frequency as the transmitter.
Exactly like a radio picking up a specific station.
Yeah.
But instead of receiving sound waves, it's receiving power waves.
It's starting to make sense. Imagine a world where you don't need to plug anything in.
That was Tesla's dream.
Yeah.
A world where everything is powered wirelessly.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. If this idea was so brilliant, why didn't it catch on back then?
Well, there were a few reasons. For one, the technology simply wasn't there yet.
Yeah, I can imagine trying to build this kind of system back then would have been a huge challenge.
It would have been a logistical nightmare. Not to mention the potential safety concerns.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Transmitting powerful electromagnetic fields through the Earth and atmosphere would have raised a lot of eyebrows.
Especially back then when people were just starting to understand electricity.
Exactly. So it's a classic case of a visionary idea ahead of its time.
But even though his wireless power system never really took off, his ideas have still had a huge impact, haven't they?
Absolutely. Many of the principles he explored, like the use of resonance, are at the heart of our wireless communication systems today.
So in a way, we are living in a world shaped by Tesla's vision.
We are indeed. And there's one more fascinating aspect of his vision that we haven't even touched on yet.
What's that?
Remember how he talked about transmitting not just power, but information as well?
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was envisioning something like a global wireless communication network.
Way back in 1902.
Are you telling me Tesla was essentially thinking about the internet a century before it even existed?
It's incredible, isn't it? He truly was a visionary.
This is mind-blowing. I can't wait to dive deeper into this whole information transmission thing.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're back, and I'm still reeling from that last revelation. Tesla wanted to transmit information wirelessly, too.
He did. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is like he was a time traveler from the future or
Well,
something.
he certainly had a knack for envisioning technologies that wouldn't exist for decades.
So let's dig into this. How did he actually think he could send information through this wireless network?
It all comes back to those high-frequency currents.
Okay, remind me how those worked again.
Remember how Tesla was using these high-frequency currents to transmit power?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Well, he realized that he could modulate those currents to encode information.
Modulate. What does that mean exactly?
It means changing something about the current, like its frequency or amplitude.
Okay, so instead of just sending a steady stream of energy, he could vary it in specific ways.
Exactly. And by carefully controlling those variations, he could create a pattern that represents different letters or numbers.
So it's like turning the power on and off really fast, kind of like Morse code, but way more complex.
That's a good analogy. Tesla understood that by manipulating the energy flow, he could essentially embed information within it.
This is incredible. It's like the power itself becomes the signal.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And receivers tuned to the right frequency could then decode that signal, extracting the information.
It's mind-blowing to think that he was already thinking about this kind of stuff over a century ago.
It is Tesla was way ahead of his time in so many ways.
So in a way, he was envisioning a world where every device could not only receive power wirelessly, but also communicate with each other.
That's exactly what he was aiming for, a global network of interconnected devices.
It's like the Internet of Things, but envisioned way back in the early 1900s.
It really is.
Mm.
And while the specific technologies he proposed might not have been practical at the time, his underlying vision was incredibly prescient.
It makes you wonder what he would think of our world today with smartphones and Wi-Fi and everything connected.
I know it's truly remarkable how far we've come.
But it all started with people like Tesla daring to dream big and to imagine a future that seemed impossible at the time.
Absolutely, Tesla's legacy lives on not just in the technologies we use today, but also in his spirit of innovation and his unwavering belief in the power of human ingenuity.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Nikola Tesla's incredible vision for wireless power and communication.
It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it?
It has. I've learned so much, and I have a feeling I'll be thinking about Tesla's ideas for a long time to come.
Me too. He was a true visionary, a genius who helped shape the world we live in today.
So to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
You never know what amazing discoveries you might make.
And who knows, maybe one of you will be the next Tesla bringing to life ideas that seem impossible today.
That's what makes the future so exciting. The possibilities are endless.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through Tesla's world.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep diving deep.